You're with someone who, as soon as the relationship gets serious, starts to pull away. When you try to increase closeness, they create distance. When you share deeper emotions, they go silent. And you chase harder, give more, sacrifice deeper, believing that with enough effort you'll break through their resistance and finally get the relationship you both deserve. But the reality is this: with avoidant partners, the more you chase, the further they run. The more you sacrifice, the less they respect you. The more you give up your identity for their comfort, the faster attraction fades. Because avoidant dynamics don't respond to pressure, they respond only to freedom, respect, and clear boundaries. Some behaviors may look like love, constant pursuit, overgiving, endless compromise, but in truth they work like poison. They destroy your value in the relationship, while convincing you that you're simply being devoted. If you don't recognize these patterns, you can spend months or even years stuck in the same exhausting cycle, chasing someone who never meets you halfway. Boundaries are not suggestions you bend whenever an avoidant partner pulls away. They are the foundation of your identity, the core that either creates respect or guarantees rejection. An avoidant doesn't test your boundaries to break them, they test to see if they actually exist. A partner without boundaries quickly becomes invisible in their eyes, no matter how much effort they put in. This isn't about being selfish or uncaring, it's about understanding the difference between healthy attachment and self-destructive behavior. If you want a real chance with an avoidant partner, you cannot put your identity up for negotiation, because the moment you stand your ground, you stop chasing approval and start creating the respect and attraction that truly lasts. That's why it's so important to understand what not to do with avoidant partners. So let's take a look, step by step, at the behaviors that might look like love, but secretly weaken the relationship. And yes, if you find these insights helpful for your own healing and awareness, make sure to subscribe so we can keep diving deeper into these topics together. When it comes to avoidant partners, boundaries aren't optional, they're the foundation of survival in the relationship. Without them, you get caught in a cycle of chasing someone who always stays just out of reach, while you slowly lose yourself in the process. Avoidants naturally create distance. That's their comfort zone, but here's the trap. When you respond to their withdrawal by bending your limits, canceling your own plans, ignoring your needs, or changing your lifestyle just to keep them close, you don't bring them closer. You teach them that your identity is flexible, negotiable, and weak, and that's the fastest way to lose respect in their eyes. Boundaries aren't about punishment or control, they're about clarity. Your need for personal space, your communication style, your connection with friends and family, these aren't obstacles to intimacy, they are proof that you have a solid, independent core, and ironically, that's exactly what an avoidant partner needs to feel safe. Think about it, avoidants already fear being swallowed by someone else's needs. If you abandon your own center to chase them, you don't look like a secure partner, you look like someone dependent on their validation, and nothing triggers withdrawal faster than neediness. Here's the truth, every time you negotiate your boundaries for an avoidant's comfort, you step deeper into self-erasure, but when you hold firm, you create stability. And stability is what makes an avoidant feel safe enough to stop running and start moving closer. After weak boundaries, the next mistake almost always follows: making your avoidant partner the center of your entire world. You stop prioritizing your own life. You cancel time with friends, neglect your hobbies, ignore your passions, all because you believe giving them more attention will finally make them feel secure. But here's the truth, with avoidant partners, this doesn't create closeness. It creates suffocation. The more your entire life revolves around them, the heavier the relationship feels. Instead of seeing you as a grounded, independent partner, they start to experience you as a psychological burden. Your friendships, your hobbies, your goals, these aren't obstacles to intimacy. They are the very nutrients that keep your identity strong. When you strip all of that away to focus only on your avoidant partner, you don't become more attractive, you become less interesting. You create pressure for them to be your everything, and that pressure triggers their flight response. Healthy relationships require two complete individuals who choose each other. When one person dissolves their identity into the other, it doesn't feel like love, it feels like dependence. And dependence is exactly what avoidants are most allergic to. Here's the paradox: the less you prioritize your own life, the less they value being a part of it. But the moment you stand firm in your independence, you create the space where respect and attraction can actually grow. One of the most common mistakes with avoidant partners happens right here. They pull away and you chase harder. They go quiet and you start talking more. They create distance and you close the gap. On the surface, it feels like you're fighting for the relationship, but in reality, you're fighting against attraction itself. Here's why: every step of pursuit signals insecurity. It tells your avoidant partner, I need you more than you need me. And avoidants, who already feel overwhelmed by closeness, experience your chasing not as love, but as pressure. The result? The more you pursue, the more they withdraw. The more they withdraw, the harder you chase. And suddenly you're stuck in a cycle that only ends in frustration. Healthy connection doesn't grow through force, it grows through mutual approach. Two people naturally moving toward each other, because being together feels good, not because one is pushing and the other is running. When you're doing all the pursuing, you're not in a relationship, you're in a one-sided chase. The paradox is this: stopping the chase often creates the very space where genuine interest can surface. But if you keep chasing, you smother the possibility of attraction before it has a chance to breathe. Respect grows in freedom, not pressure. And if someone isn't choosing you freely, then all the effort in the world will never make them stay. Another trap people fall into with avoidant partners is the urge to fix them. You notice their walls, their distance, their struggles with intimacy, and you think, if I just help them heal, if I guide them, if I improve them, then we'll finally have the relationship we're meant to have. But here's the problem: when you approach an avoidant as a project, you stop being a partner. You turn into a therapist, a coach, or even a parent, and nothing kills attraction faster than parent-child dynamics. Romance requires equality. The moment you step into the role of improver, you put them into the role of problem. Avoidants are highly sensitive to this. Deep down, they want to feel accepted for who they are right now, not who you believe they could become with enough of your effort. When they sense you're trying to mold or transform them, they don't feel loved, they feel inadequate. And that sense of inadequacy creates resistance, resentment, and eventually rejection. The truth is this: you can't date someone's potential, you can only date their reality. Maybe they will grow, maybe they won't, but it has to be their choice, not your project. Your role isn't to fix them, your role is to decide whether who they are today aligns with the kind of relationship you actually want. Real intimacy isn't built by changing an avoidant, it's built by respecting their autonomy and respecting your own. When you're with an avoidant partner, it's tempting to believe that giving more will eventually inspire them to give back. You show up with more effort, more patience, more time, more love, hoping that your devotion will melt their walls. But instead of creating closeness, overinvestment usually produces the opposite: detachment. Here's why: when one person gives far more than the other, the balance of respect shifts. Your avoidant partner doesn't feel inspired by your endless sacrifices. They feel no urgency to step up. Overinvestment teaches them that they don't need to contribute equally because you'll carry the relationship no matter what. And instead of building a partnership, you end up running a charity. This imbalance doesn't just drain you, it also kills attraction. Attraction requires mutual effort, a sense that both people are investing, contributing, and choosing each other. When you overfunction in every area, emotionally, physically, financially, you remove their opportunity to invest, and without investment, there is no real attachment. Even worse, overinvestment often leads to quiet resentment. You start keeping score, feeling unappreciated, and wondering why your sacrifices aren't being recognized. Meanwhile, the avoidant partner feels pressured, guilty, or even smothered, which only deepens their withdrawal. The truth is this: healthy relationships grow when both partners contribute proportionally to their abilities and desires. With avoidance especially, you must resist the urge to give endlessly, because the moment you stop over-investing, you create space for them to step forward, or reveal that they never will. With avoidant partners, the most dangerous trap often isn't dramatic, it's subtle. It's the slow erosion of your self-worth through countless small compromises. You give up little pieces of yourself, your opinions, your preferences, your needs, until one day you realize you don't even recognize the person you've become. It starts innocently. You bite your tongue to avoid conflict. You tolerate behavior you'd never accept from a friend or co-worker. You excuse actions that go against your values, telling yourself it's just how they are. But every time you silence your voice or shrink yourself for their comfort, you send a silent message: my needs don't matter. And once that message takes hold, respect begins to vanish. Avoidant partners, consciously or not, pick up on this shift. The less you respect yourself, the harder it is for them to respect you. Instead of seeing you as a strong, grounded partner, they start to experience you as dependent and insecure, and nothing triggers avoidance faster than neediness. The real danger of this erosion is psychological dependence. Your sense of value becomes tied to their approval. You stop feeling worthy on your own, and begin needing their validation just to feel okay. But avoidants aren't built to provide constant reassurance, so you end up chasing what they're least likely to give. The solution: self-respect. When you protect your dignity, you create the strength that avoidants unconsciously crave. Without it, you lose both yourself and the relationship. Another mistake that quietly destroys relationships with avoidant partners is identity dissolution, changing who you are just to keep them interested. At first, it seems harmless. You adjust your style because you think they'll like it. You shift your opinions to avoid conflict. You drop hobbies, passions, or friendships that don't fit into their world. But over time, each change chips away at your authentic self until there's nothing left of the person they were drawn to in the first place. Here's the paradox: avoidants already struggle with intimacy. When you dissolve your identity to adapt to them, you don't become more attractive, you become less compelling. Why? Because attraction is built on authenticity. People fall in love with who you really are, not a watered-down version designed to win approval. Worse still, identity dissolution sets a dangerous precedent. Once you start shifting yourself to meet their comfort, they come to expect continuous adaptation. Every new boundary they push, every new standard they set, you bend to fit. And soon you're not in a real relationship, you're in a performance, constantly auditioning for their acceptance. That performance is exhausting. It prevents real intimacy because intimacy requires honesty. If your avoidant partner doesn't know the real you, your true desires, your true opinions, your true life, then the connection is built on illusion. The truth is simple: if who you are isn't enough for an avoidant partner, no amount of self-modification will ever be. Authenticity is the only foundation worth building on. One of the most dangerous mistakes with avoidant partners is ignoring the evidence in front of you. You see the patterns, the pulling away, the inconsistent communication, the walls around intimacy, but instead of facing them, you get caught in what I call the awareness vacuum. You tell yourself stories, focus on their words instead of their actions, and hope that promises of the future will erase the reality of the present. But here's the truth: avoidant partners reveal themselves through behavior, not declarations. It doesn't matter if they say, "I really want this to work," if their actions consistently show distance and avoidance. Every time you prioritize what you want to believe over what you actually see, you step deeper into denial. The awareness vacuum also blinds you to red flags. You excuse dismissive behavior, rationalize their coldness, or ignore the way they treat others. But relationships are patterns, not exceptions. How they show up consistently is who they are. And it's not just about them, it's about you too. The vacuum often hides your own triggers and vulnerabilities. Maybe you're drawn to avoidance because they mirror old wounds, or because the chase feels familiar. Without awareness of your own psychology, you risk repeating the same painful cycle with different partners. The solution: radical honesty. Observe behavior, not just words. Recognize your patterns, not just theirs. Because only when you step out of the awareness vacuum can you make decisions based on reality, rather than on fantasy. Another mistake people make with avoidant partners is carrying the entire weight of the relationship alone. You do all the planning, all the emotional labor, all the communication, all the effort, while they contribute little more than showing up. On the surface, it looks like you're being strong, reliable, and generous, but in reality, you're creating an imbalance that destroys attraction. Here's why relationships thrive on shared investment. When one person handles everything, the other person never develops true ownership of the connection. Your avoidant partner doesn't have to lean in, solve problems, or take responsibility, because you've already covered every gap. And when people don't invest, they don't value. This imbalance also shifts the dynamic from partnership to parent-child. You become the caretaker, and they become the passive recipient. Attraction can't survive in that dynamic. Respect grows when both partners witness each other's contributions, whether that's effort, resources, problem solving, or emotional presence. Without that balance, the relationship feels lopsided and unsustainable. Even worse, carrying the entire load leads to burnout. You start feeling resentful, unappreciated and drained, while your avoidant partner may feel guilty, pressured, or even more distant. It's a lose-lose cycle that ends with both people disconnected. The truth is, this balance doesn't mean equal in every way, but it does mean proportional effort. Both partners need to contribute in the ways they can, because only when the weight is shared does the relationship feel worth keeping for both of you. The final mistake with avoidant partners is refusing to face reality. You see glimpses of connection, hear promises of change, and hold on to potential, believing that if you just stay long enough, they'll eventually transform into the partner you need. But relationships don't thrive on potential, they thrive on patterns. Here's the truth: avoidant partners show you who they are through consistent behavior. If they regularly pull away, avoid intimacy, and struggle to invest, that's not a temporary glitch, it's their operating system. Hoping that love, effort, or time will rewire them keeps you stuck in a fantasy while reality slips by. Compatibility isn't about how much you care for someone, it's about whether your needs, values, and goals actually align with theirs. You can love someone deeply and still not be able to build a healthy relationship with them, and no amount of chasing or waiting will turn the wrong fit into the right one. The reality check is about radical acceptance. Stop asking, could this work if they change? And start asking, is this working with who they are right now? If the answer is no, then the bravest and healthiest choice may be to walk away. Because here's the bottom line: real love doesn't require endless self-sacrifice, boundary erosion, or waiting for someone's potential to appear. Real love exists in the present. It's reciprocal, respectful, and rooted in two whole people choosing each other, not in one person waiting for the other to finally show up. When it comes to avoidant partners, the greatest danger isn't their distance, it's what you do in response to it. Chasing harder, giving more, dissolving your boundaries, reshaping your identity, ignoring red flags. All of it feels like love in the moment, but in reality, it's self-destruction disguised as devotion. What you've learned through these steps is simple but powerful. Attraction isn't maintained through pressure, overinvestment, or negotiation. It's built on respect, independence, and authenticity. Boundaries don't push avoidance away, they're the only thing that makes them feel safe enough to come closer. Independence doesn't kill intimacy, it creates the foundation for it. And self-respect isn't selfish, it's the fuel that keeps attraction alive. The reality is that not every avoidant partner will meet you halfway. Some will keep running no matter what you do, but that's not a sign for you to chase harder. It's a sign for you to value yourself enough to walk away. Because real love doesn't demand you erase yourself. Real love enhances who you already are. It's mutual, balanced, and sustainable. And when you hold your ground, protect your worth, and live authentically, you won't just survive avoidant dynamics, you'll attract the kind of love that's truly worth keeping.